G'day there guys, I've said it once and I'll say it again, the key to happiness is to lower your expectations. No lower? Oh, come on, lower. Lower. Yeah, you got it, there we go. No expectations. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of Relationship Advice. Now if you love this bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the barbie, lower those expectations and have a good time. Thank you. Posted by user Disgusted1424. Titled, Married friend, 26 female, can't stop talking about my, 27 female, ex-boyfriend. So I've known her since we were in grade 4. We lived in the same neighbourhood and went to the same school. We were good friends till high school and eventually drifted apart. My best friend and she used to go to the same college and used to tell me how she was clingy with a guy even though she had a boyfriend who went to a different college. I kept away from her and thought that I would never be in touch with her, but we were friends on Facebook. I finished college and moved to a different country when I learned her father had passed away. I felt really bad and reached out to her. She mentioned she was also moving to the country and we decided to meet up. My boyfriend and I met her for lunch, and eventually my boyfriend and her husband became friends. I broke up with my boyfriend, and she said how she would have gone after my ex if only she wasn't married because he's really cute. I told her what he did to me, but it made no difference to her. She had plans of meeting my ex out for dinner and invited me out too. I stopped hanging out with her after that. She kept messaging me to meet quite a few times, and I kept making excuses. I finally caved in and planned a dinner with her for today, but she wouldn't stop talking about my ex, telling me how he's one of her close friends and how they keep sending each other Snapchats, like it was a big deal for her. It felt really annoying. I cut the dinner short and headed home. I don't want to be friends with her anymore. How should I tell her that I don't want to be friends with her without hurting her feelings? How do I stay away from her? TLDR, married friend became close friends of my ex after we broke up and keeps talking about him every time we meet. If it was me personally, I'd tell them that their obsession with their ex is crossing boundaries of her own relationships, or just relationship, and definitely the relationship between them and I. Like if it was me, I would want to move on from this person because obviously what the ex did was unacceptable, and the fact that this friend doesn't see that and or get affected by it speaks volumes of their character. It shows me that they lack empathy for you, OP, and they would rather that you just continue be cool with whatever the hell is going on between them and, keep facilitating it. That's not someone worth sticking around for. I'd say make your feelings known and cut them off, OP. Now in the comments, DYU says, Girl, you're still worried about sparing her feelings after all of this? Just be honest with her that the way she acts with you is unacceptable and you're not interested in continuing this friendship. It also sounds like she's having an emotional affair with OP's ex and only wants OP there to make it less affair-y, or make it more of a trophy. Yeah, it seems like she really wants to rub it in OP's face that she's such good friends with him. I wonder how her husband would feel, or if he even knows about this guy. My initial thought, if I ever heard my significant other say, man, if I was single, 1,000 times, I would have dumped his ass so quick. The ex and the friend's husband are actually friends now. Big yikes. Definitely amps up the cringe factor of what the frenemy keeps saying. Do you want to say something to her? Because I would just ghost her. She's not your friend, she's likely having an affair with your ex and is trying to throw it in your face. She only wants you to come around if he's around as an excuse for her husband. Cut ties and move on. I wish I could upvote this more than once. You're totally right. Not to mention OP talks about telling her friend what he did to her, which is never a good thing. Her friend betrayed her after she had all the facts and still pursued some kind of relationship with him and expected her to just go along with it. Honestly, OP, you should tell her husband that something fishy is going on and then tell her that she is not your friend anymore because she clearly doesn't respect people beyond her own gain. I know you can't tell people who to be friends with, but someone who cozies up to your pain and rubs salt in the wound isn't a friend. Say something like, I respect and care for you, but think we've had boundary problems recently. Poop face is still a sore subject to me after the way he treated me. I've made that clear, but you continue to disrespect both your husband and me, speaking about him in a way that I find inappropriate. I care for you, but think it would be best if we took some time apart for now. And OP updates their post. Update. Thank you all so much. Such amazing support and helping me see through things. I sent her a message saying how uncomfortable last night was for me, that it was not right for her to rub her friendship with him in my face, and how it felt like she valued her relationship with my ex more than our friendship. I told her I can't dictate who she can be friends with, but that I cannot be friends with someone who's a close friend of that one person who messed me up mentally and emotionally. I wished her the best and blocked her from everywhere. Posted by user Involuntary. Titled, I, 22 female, cannot keep myself from crying during arguments with my boyfriend, 27 male. Boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years in March. Generally, we have a good relationship. I've never felt so comfortable around someone. He's supportive of my goals and I am supportive of his. However, we fight maybe once a month. Sometimes more, sometimes much less, usually because I voice a concern and then he gets defensive and sarcastic. For example, once at the start of our relationship, he invited me over. When I got there, he said, I'm going to finish up this game, of a MOBA, and then proceeded to play 4 more, which were 1 hour each, while I sat on his couch and watched 2 movies on my own. He didn't even bother to come talk to me between games or anything. I was so shell-shocked that I didn't say anything until we were getting ready for bed, and at that point, I laid my concerns on the table and told him I didn't appreciate that he left me alone to play video games without even checking in with me. He took issues with the phrase checking in, telling me it sounded like something his mom would say. From there, I started crying. He got defensive, etc., and we eventually agreed to communicate better. We just don't, though. I try so hard. When I have issues with what he's doing, I no longer say something along the lines of, you did XYZ, or you're rude, or anything really accusatory. I always take a lot of care to bring things up using I statements. I feel hurt when you cancel established plans on me last minute because I need to feel like a priority, etc. But the problem persists. I voice a concern, he gets defensive and sarcastic, and eventually we get to a point where it feels like we're talking in circles because how can he not understand? To make matters worse, as time goes on, I just find it harder and harder to stop myself from breaking down into tears right off the bat. I cry earlier and easier now. Now, I do not cry to be manipulative. I just can't help it. I know it makes things worse though. I'm worried he thinks I'm doing it to be manipulative. I know it frustrates him, and what the hell? It frustrates me too. I don't want to cry. I don't want to seem unhinged or not in control of my emotions, but the truth is that I just cannot seem to keep control of my emotions anymore. This weekend, we were driving to pick up ice cream. I was driving, I have a tendency to park close to the curb, and he always expresses concern for my hubcaps as a result. This time, as I was leaving the spot, he put his hands up and said, I don't know why you did that. Because apparently I wasn't leaving the spot correctly? I didn't hit the curb, I didn't hit the car in front of me or behind me. I pulled out into the street without incident. But he thought I was doing it wrong, for whatever reason, and felt the need to comment on it flippantly. I said nothing. I was in a noticeably worse mood, and he asked if everything was okay. In stereotypical angry girlfriend fashion, I said, I'm fine. He said it didn't seem like I was. In all honesty, I shut down like this because I find myself trying to pick the right words to say without just letting my emotions speak for me. I'm slow at communicating when I'm upset as a result. After a few moments, I said, "I didn't appreciate it when you criticized me for the way I left that spot." He said, "Well, I'm just worried about your hubcaps." I said, "My hubcaps are fine. Nothing happened, right?" He said, "If you'd gone a little further, you would have scraped them." I started tearing up at this point. "Why?" I said, clearly choked up, "I've been driving us around all day and offered to drive to get ice cream because I know you don't like driving. I don't know why you feel the need to criticize me." He could tell I was crying, so he said, "What the hell?" And the thing is, Reddit, on one hand, I just wish he would be a little bit more understanding and maybe offer the occasional apology. He never apologizes beyond, "I'm sorry you feel that way." But on the other hand, I really hate that I cry, especially over something as small as this. I think it makes things so much worse. How the heck do I keep my cool when I'm talking to someone who is stubborn, defensive, and sarcastic though? Especially when they're the person I love. TLDR, my boyfriend has a tendency to be sarcastic and defensive when we argue, and as a result, I cry. Crying frustrates me and makes things worse. What's the best way to voice my concerns to someone who is stubborn? And what's the best way to keep my cool? Now in the comments, RedBoot77 says, "He sounds like an a-hole. He's not considerate of your time or your feelings. Doubtful that he will change, and you are too young to continue being stuck in a one-sided relationship." I was worried about this. Obviously I want to believe things will get better, but it's been 2 years of this, and I'm sick of crying because my boyfriend can't just say, "I'm sorry, I'll work on this with you." At some point, you need to decide when enough is enough. I went through a similar experience with my girlfriend. We started dating pretty young, and I simply hadn't developed the kind of emotional maturity and emotional expressiveness necessary for a serious relationship with her. But she voiced her concerns, we discussed them, and I worked on being more conscious of how she was feeling and being better about expressing how I felt to her. We have a much stronger relationship now, and communicate great despite my struggles early in the relationship. But the point is that change actually occurred. It's great that you're encouraging him. I likely would not have had the wherewithal to change without my girlfriend's encouragement, but ultimately, it's on him to start communicating. If it were me, I'd say 2 years is more than enough time for him to have started making noticeable progress in how he communicates with you, and the level of emotional maturity he brings to his interactions with you. If you're not seeing that, which it sounds like you aren't, I would move on. Sometimes people need emotional connection their partners simply are not capable of providing, whatever other great traits they might have. Your boyfriend kind of sounds like an a-hole. He refuses to accept blame for anything and makes everything your fault. What are you getting out of this relationship? You might be better off with someone who doesn't get defensive when he F's up and treats you with respect. I like to think that he does treat me with respect, generally speaking. He's fun, affectionate, and usually very chill. He encourages me to pursue my passions and helps me realize goals. He loves my family, and they love him, and he's been nothing but supportive of my little sister, who's in something of a depressive slump. But you're right. When we argue, it's like I've entered the effing twilight zone. Sometimes I feel like maybe I shouldn't voice concerns because they're not worth the potential blowout argument that we might have. And sometimes I reflect on things post-argument and realize I probably blew things out of proportion. But it's so frustrating to be hit with the "sorry you feel that way" line, when all I want is a genuine apology and a promise to work towards better communication with me. I just don't know what to do, or if it's even possible to get through to him. And if it is, how? Why is he so stubborn when we argue, when usually he's extremely laid back? Because if things are going his way, or he's not being challenged, he doesn't have an issue. But when he's disagreed with, or has to dredge up some empathy, the mask slips. Right? He's the kind of person that loves it when things go his way, but shows his true colors when things aren't. You are going to be in a bad situation if you get serious with him. More problems are going to come in, like when you have money issues or child issues, and your partner doesn't seem capable of dealing with issues. We don't have the full evidence of emotional abuse, but we certainly have red flags. Consider the famous line, "The abuser doesn't have a problem with their anger, they have a problem with yours." It's all fine till you have something to say that he doesn't want to hear. That is the mind of the abuser, and you want to be careful here. Even if it's not abuse yet, I mean, who wants to stay in a borderline abusive relationship? And now on to the update. How to move on, ? Well, almost exactly 2 years ago, 2 years and 3 days, I, now 24, posted here about getting frustrated about crying during arguments with my boyfriend, who is now 29. The comments really highlighted the fact that I had buried the lead. I was crying because my boyfriend didn't respect or understand my emotional needs, and I didn't know how to express them without being met with defensiveness or anger. 2 years later, that has not changed. I broke up with him yesterday, after 4 years of heartache and hoping that I could single-handedly fix the relationship by working on my, admittedly very imperfect, communication. We started seeing a therapist in June last year, and she's been wonderful in helping us communicate and talk through problems. Unfortunately, and agonizingly, our slightly improved communications allowed me to realize that our needs are fundamentally incompatible and that overcoming 4 years of awful communication and traumatic relationship events is too difficult for me to handle right now. If you're familiar with attachment theory, I am definitely anxiously attached, and my now ex-boyfriend is definitely avoidant. I would push him to communicate, to hear me, to understand my feelings, and that would cause him to pull away or shut me out, which only increased my anxiety and my attempts to get him to hear me. 2 years ago, we were fighting once a month. Lately, we've been fighting once a week. Just a really terribly vicious circle that has completely worn down my self-esteem and contentment over time. The worst for me was about 1.5 years ago, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. My boyfriend would call me on my lunch break every day of that week, which I appreciated. I went over to his house on the weekend, hoping for some support. At 7 p.m., the start of his weekly game night, he said, "Well, it's time for game night," and went. When I cried and tried to express to him how much that hurt me, he coldly responded by telling me I'm high maintenance. I don't think I've been able to work past this event internally. We've tried, he didn't apologize for it until we were in therapy, and I've struggled to truly forgive and move on. I never was able to articulate my feelings in a way that I thought he might be receptive to, so I stopped bringing it up. But it definitely stewed. I don't think he's a bad person. Recognizing my own resentment towards him was what allowed me to end the relationship. I finally understood that while I certainly feel hurt by some of his actions, and hurt because he didn't really seem able to meet my needs, that's a result of our differing needs and expectations. Yeah, I would have loved for him to prioritize me over his video games, but I think I understand now that it's alright for him to prioritize games over me, and it's alright for me to be uncomfortable about it and to walk away because of it. I'm going to miss him so much. I feel broken and alone. When I broke up with him, I sobbed the entire time, and he responded calmly and almost emotionlessly. How do I deal with this? I don't know how to heal, and I don't know how to forgive myself for toughing this out for 4 years. I know it's not, edit entirely, my fault, but part of me still finds ways to blame myself. I don't know what to do. TLDR, broke up with my dismissive, avoidant boyfriend of 4 years, completely a wreck, feel like I've wasted time and disrespected my own emotional needs by staying with him, but miss him terribly. How do I move on? And they share an edit after the comments. Thank you all for sharing your experiences and advice with me. It's really helped me through a tough day. I'm sure the weeks ahead will be hard, but I will keep all of your support in mind. Now, in the comments, Beneficial Half 5645 says, I was you a few years ago, probably anxiously attached to someone who was avoidant. We broke up, and I took a year to work on myself. I made myself a single girl checklist of things I want to do prior to getting into another relationship. Things like traveling by myself, getting a tattoo, going skydiving, and living by myself. It sounds crazy, but it really helped me come to terms with myself as a person, and my own bad habits. My ex and I were together for 4.5 years, and I learned that I need to see all sides of things and work on being more independent. After that year, I waded into the dating pool and discovered online dating, which was awful in itself. Do not recommend, lol. However, I kept my identity, focused on the present instead of what I wanted from the future, and stopped giving free passes to people with crappy behavior, and also stopped giving more than I was getting. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of tears, a lot of wine, and the help of my very best friends. But I did it. I got out, and I learned how to be a strong individual. These days, I'm in a much happier relationship, and my mental health and sanity are much better. Hang on. Distract yourself with a bucket list, and you will get through it. And OP replies, the bucket list is a fantastic idea. Some things will be harder to put into practice during the pandemic, at least in my area, but there are definitely some small goals that I'd like to set for myself and try to achieve at home. Maybe I'll finally finish writing the album I've been trying to write for years. I know by the end of the relationship that I was totally codependent and will need to work on strategies to deactivate my anxiety before I'm ready to start dating again. Right now, I can't even stand the idea of entering a new relationship anytime soon, but I'll be taking the time to work on myself. Thank you. Yes, do it. It will be harder with the pandemic, but the album idea is great. I think I also read a new book series and developed a hobby. Hello, candle making. Honestly, I really liked that time where I just cut myself off from dating. That was actually around the time I met my current significant other, and we were able to develop a solid friendship prior to dating. And OP replies, yes, I think I can get myself excited about being single and focusing on myself. In due time. Candle making sounds so fun. Wait, things I've never even thought about. Where do you get scents from? Not sure where you're from, but I get all of my stuff from Michael's. Any craft store would work, I think. Easiest candles are just the pour and scent ones. Also, not shaving your legs for undisclosed amounts of time is amazing. Nyoka Rose says, don't keep making a mistake just because you spent a lot of time making it. This quote helped me a lot. And OP replies, so true. At a certain point I realized it was the sunk cost fallacy, but I just kept hoping I could make it work if I tried harder. And Sharkaub says, it's cliche, but time does heal. And you've done so much growing, and you've gotten so much better at recognizing things within others and yourself that you can continue to do so moving forward to your own benefit. That growth will help you heal too. I used to beat myself up all the time for sinking years into an ex that I truly wanted to marry. But we were never going to be compatible after some of the things that were said and done. Now I'm in my 30s and I've been married for 8 years to someone so different from my ex and completely wonderful for me. I never saw myself marrying after that breakup, but here we are, and it's shocking how much happier I am and how much better he treats me. Hindsight really is 20/20. If I'm honest, that breakup and the months following were some of the most painful moments of my whole life. It sucks bad. But if you focus on the reason you broke up, what you want and deserve from life, you'll get better and better, and one day it won't hurt as much, and then another day it won't hurt at all. I'm sorry you're hurting, OP, but I'm proud of you for doing it. There's no shame in taking longer than you'd have liked to figure something out, and the stuff you learned in the meantime will help you immensely in the future. Good luck. And OP replies, "This comment was like a virtual hug. Thank you so much. I feel so seen, and I teared up reading it. I'll keep reminding myself that what I want from a partnership and from myself were not achievable in that relationship. It sucks that love was not enough, but I'm proud of myself for walking away too. I'm so glad to hear that you found a fulfilling love. My ex told me recently that all relationships have problems and that the grass isn't always greener. But I like to think I can find a relationship with problems I am more able to handle." G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.